February 22nd Town Hall meeting to order, and if everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie, would you take roll call, please?
Robert Pope.
Present.
Bill Holland. Here. Jason Puckett.
Present.
Don Loudon.
Present.
Greg Zuzen.
Okay, next on the agenda is the consent agenda, which consists of the check register, the minutes, and the bond release for Fairwood Sections 2 and 3. Any comments or anyone have a motion to make?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda, approve the consent agenda to include the check register for today, our February 8th work session meeting minutes, our February 8th council meeting minutes, and the bond release for Fairwood Section 2 and 3 as presented. I'll second.
Julie, we have a first and a second. Would you take roll call, please?
Don Loudon.
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Jason Puckett.
4.
Bill Holland.
Next is the first of 2 public comment periods. The public may comment on items that are on the agenda but are not part of the public hearing or a specific manner within the council's jurisdiction. If you come forward, please state your name and address. Well, first turn on the microphone and then state your name and address into the microphone, and please limit your time to 3 minutes. No one in the chamber is coming forward, so we'll go ahead and close public comment and move on to council comment and liaison reports. Jason?
Got the opportunity on Monday to go to the police merit board meeting and then do a tour of the facility afterwards. So that was great to see what they're up to and how they're operating. And that was about it for me.
So first, welcome, Bill, and congratulations on your appointment to the town council. I attended that merit board meeting with Jason, got to see Sergeant Bogus, he's not a detective anymore, Sergeant Bogus, receive an award and see our newest detective, he was in here earlier, get that appointment. I attended the Avon Schools Community Leaders Luncheon, where the AIS East team shared with us their successful family book club program. That was really cool to see. I was able to watch a couple of the high school robotics team matches at their quarterfinals last weekend. Once again, I cannot remember, it's been a handful of years that they've had all 3 teams that the club has fielded will represent Avon in the state finals on March 6th. I participated in the Community Foundation's Diversity Awareness Series earlier this week, and later that evening attended the AIM Legislative Dinner where, surprise, surprise, more local home rule control was the major topic of discussion. And last night I attended West Central Conservancy District's board meeting. Just great news. I was happy to see that Mr. Padgett's in good health and participating. That's it for me.
Thank you. Bill? Bill's so new, he doesn't.
I'm so new that I've only had one meeting, and that was the Board of Zoning Appeals. And they just had one issue with the new ice cream shop down on Avon Avenue and State Road 36. And there's really nothing to report. They approved the variance. Very short meeting.
Thank you. So for those at home, Bill is filling the seat that was vacated by Tim Roberts, and Bill will continue to serve out the remainder of the term for that seat. And I'm glad to have you, Bill. Next on the agenda is the new business, and we're going to start with comprehensive plan contract.
Yeah, I'll speak to this. As you guys are aware, actually, I guess it was 2 years ago, we updated our Unified Development Ordinance. So it had kind of always been in our plan that one of the things that came out of that development of that document was that we had some inconsistencies between our comprehensive plan and our Unified Development Ordinance. And so we kind of fixed the Unified Development Ordinance and got that to where we needed it to be to address the council's concerns But we then wanted to go back and correct the comprehensive plan to make sure that that also reflects the vision of the council. So we did go through a selection process and selected HWC to complete that update. In front of you is the scope of services and a proposed fee for that project. We did review that together at our strategic session. It is staff's recommendation that you guys approve the fee. It's $142,900. They did provide a timeline and a schedule as well to take 12 months. So if the town council approves this tonight, we will start that process and get going. And as we've talked about before, our hope is that on March 14th, we would do a joint kickoff meeting with the Plan Commission to start that casting our vision and making sure that we start getting this document updated. I'm happy to answer any questions. This is just the proposal, so this would get attached with an actual contract. And so when they actually attach the contract, we will make sure our town attorney reviews that and approves it prior to us executing it. Happy to answer any questions.
I in no way want to delay this because it's been needed for a while. However, we have had some changes in our planning department that might not be a great timing for us to move through or kick off such a important, wide-reaching document. Is it still your recommendation, given what's going on, that we continue this as it is?
Yeah, I've been in communication with our future planning director. I actually shared the scope with them. And to get any feedback they had, they did respond back and said they thought the scope looked really good and that the public input was really robust and that was good. There were a couple of comments on some of the data layers and some of the things that they were going to provide, but I think those are minor, like administrative things. They're not necessarily policy things. And so when they get on board, we'll do that. The only thing that they would miss would be that meeting on the 14th potentially. So I think at that point they would have given their employer notice. So I may ask and see if they may be able to attend that. If not, I can have a conversation with Greg and Dawn about maybe delaying that to the April meeting, but I'd hate to delay it too long, but we'll try to navigate that issue.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yes, my only comment would be about the 20-person steering committee. Last time that the UDO process went, like we talked about at the work session or executive session, off the rails. So I think that we really need to give thought to who those 20 people would be on that steering committee to make sure we don't have the same outcome and the same delays and the same divide that there seemed to be before. So Ryan, how does this contract provide for us to make the selection of those 20 people? I'm reading it, just talks about setting it up.
Yeah, I think their proposal is to staff to a max of 20 people. So you don't have to have 20 people on the steering committee. That's 100% at your guys' discretion. It's your determination of who you want to have on that steering committee. When we talked about this as a strategic session, I suggested that 2 of you be on there. You may want 2 people as well from the Planning Commission. And then I think it is important that steering committee is going to drive and make sure that your vision is cast. So I think it's important that you guys think about that and decide it. But it's 100% your guys' decision on who's on there. The staff can make some recommendations to you guys, but it's your decision.
I would just say then that the 5 of us, Greg included, should maybe be giving some thought to that so that that's not the thing that's holding us up or delaying us. So, and I did say executive session and I meant strategic sessions, so just want to clarify that out there. Other comments? I guess we can move on.
I have a quick
Oh, you
question
do?
about that.
Go ahead.
So Ryan, when would staff be ready for their recommendations?
For the steering committee, I would say that would be when we do that joint meeting on the 14th, that would be a good time. So you guys have a couple of weeks to start thinking about it. And again, if you guys want us to provide you some names of people who would be good for your consideration as well, we can do that too. And again, you may not have to make the appointments at that meeting, but that'd be a good opportunity for you to have that conversation and talk about who is appropriate to be on there if you choose to do so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Down there? No? All right, we'll move on to traffic signal evaluation.
Hey, Dawn, I do need you guys to vote on that, please. I need you to make a motion to approve the contract.
But it's a proposal. You said that the contract would come
Right,
later.
and that's what, the contract will just be the language, and that's what we'll defer to Dan. So the request would be, what we do is we just do an Exhibit A to the contract, which is the scope of services, but you would need to approve HWC for up to $142,900. You'd have to do that portion of it.
Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept their proposal as presented.
Second, anyone?
Do you need that to include the max dollar amount? Just as presented, Roger. Then I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Julie, would you take roll call, please?
Robert Pope,
4.
Bill Holland,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Don Loudon.
4. Okay, I'm trying to get us out of here quick, I guess. On again to the traffic signal evaluation. Steve?
Steve Moore, Public Works Director. Yes, the evaluation is for Dan Jones Road, Hartford, which is also Lowe's Road. There's going to be a change in traffic there when they build the bridge. We're going to go from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. One of the challenges is turning left. Right now, you're turning across 1 lane. You'll be turning across 2 lanes. And so the idea is to find out if we're going to need a separate protected left turn phase. Also to see how it's operating right now is make sure it's as efficient as possible for now, because it will be a while before the bridge is built. So the study will look at current operations, how to improve current operations, and then future operations, how we should address those. So that's what this is for.
Are there any questions or discussion?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this will take into consideration the timing of that light with NDOT's timing on 36, correct?
That's correct. One of the concerns is if we do put a protected left turn phase in there for southbound traffic, whether it would stack up and then cause an issue at 36. So we're actually involving NDOT in this process as well. That's why the price is what it is, because there's coordination with NDOT.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
Anyone else?
If I may, this contract is one of those, it does contain a limitation of liability provision. I'm not concerned about it in this kind of a consulting agreement, but it does, but whenever they are there, I feel like I need to say something. But this limitation of liability, which is the small print right in the middle of the page, says that they cannot be liable for an amount to exceed $50,000 or the total fee that you pay them. So I always try to mention this to you, that is really not what the law says. The law says they're responsible for the liability that is, which their negligence would give rise to. And they want to limit that, they want to limit that liability to what you pay them. And so if we are building a bridge or a large road or a structure, of course, I don't like these. This kind of consulting, it's not so much a concern for me, but I want to point out to you that that's there. The other thing I want to say, which I also say, is that if an engineer wants this, then to me, the price should change from whatever they would do it for to, they should buy this from you. And if they don't want to buy this sort of limitation, then they shouldn't get it. So I'm not going to tell you not to approve it as it's written, but I want to point this out to you that these are the kinds of things we should always look for in these sort of consulting agreements. This is a pretty small, pretty minor project, so I'm not that concerned, but it does contain that. And if you ever have to have litigation with them, they're going to, even if it costs, maybe it's $500,000, they're going to say, you agreed to keep it to $14,800 in a lump sum, and that's the most we could be responsible for. So I'd rather not see those in our agreements. That's in there.
I would suggest, and this is what I would typically do, that we strike that language and Chet has done this for us before. We strike that language and we have them sign our standard contract that Dan has. And same as we just talked about with HWC, that we attach this document as Exhibit A to our standard contract that does not have those terms in it. So if you guys would consider approving it, we'll strike that. Chet will be okay with it. He's done it in the past. That would be my suggestion.
And I'd prefer that.
That was going to be my question is, have we used Traffic Engineering Inc. before on projects? And I'm
Yeah,
hearing that-
Chet's a local traffic engineer from Danville. We've used him for years. I've worked with him for 30-some years. Yeah, he's used.
Okay.
He did the analysis at Costco for the lane assignments that we just got.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, would someone like to make a motion with keeping in mind the information we've heard from our attorney and our town manager?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and do this. I'm gonna try and get this. Dan, I want to make sure you're listening to this, make sure we get this correct here. I make a motion that we adopt the traffic signal evaluation contract provided by Traffic Engineering with the exception of the limitation of liability. Does that satisfy what you just discussed?
Yes.
Roger that. Thank you.
There's a first or a motion. Do we have a second?
My second.
Thank you, Bill. Julie, would you take roll call, please?
Don Love,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4?
Bill Holland,
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Thank you. Moving on to Make My Move agreement.
Yeah, so at a previous work session, actually, we've discussed this twice. This is Make My Move is an economic development opportunity to encourage remote workers to move to town. So this would become part of our portfolio for economic development. Obviously, we do certain things like tax abatements and TIF districts, and we do all sorts of things to try to entice economic development. And this is, again, just another tool in our toolbox. Make My Move is an organization that helps market our community and then attract people to our community and actually bring their jobs with them as part of that. And as in exchange for that, we help provide incentives for people to move to our community. This is a program that the IEDC also supports. They will actually fund at a 50% match. And so you guys do have a copy of the proposal and how that would shake out. There are 3 options there. They gave us a 10-job attraction strategy, a 15-job attraction strategy, and a 20-job attraction strategy. This is not something we budgeted for this year. So my recommendation would be that we start small at the 10 jobs, which would be about at a $78,000 cost to us, assuming they fill all 10 of those jobs. And then if it's something that we really like and we want to continue to do, then maybe we can increase those numbers of jobs that we try to attract in the future. So I'm happy to answer any questions. It is at your guys' discretion if you guys want to go to the higher amount. If to provide additional jobs, that's fine. My proposal to pay for it would to be from EDIT, which is Economic Development Income Tax. And so, again, that's where we pay our economic development incentives out of. And so it makes sense. The thing that will also, that kind of regenerates our income tax, because the point of generating these jobs and bringing these people to our community is that they bring that job, which means they'll pay additional income tax. And so it's really self-generating for us to be able to do that. Since I didn't budget for it, there'll be a couple of different options. One, we can underspend the budget. And if we're unable to do that, we could also do an additional appropriation, which I know you guys are familiar with. I know Don smiled at me. Our edit fund has just a smidge under $1 million in it. So we have a substantial amount of revenue in our fund balance if we do want to do that. Again, my first strategy would be we'll underspend it in other areas so that we can cover the cost. Also, as you guys remember in the presentation that Make My Moves did, we will get a reimbursement from the IEDC. And so we may not even expense out that $78,000 for 10 jobs this year. It may even end up in next year, depending on when those people move and when they do their incentives. Part of that, if you guys recall, was you only give them half of the incentive up front, and then after a year, you give them the rest. So some of those expenses may not even hit our budget until next year in terms of actual expenses. So I think we can find a way to pay for it by underspending our existing budget. I'm happy to answer any questions and make my moves this year as well if you have any questions for them.
Any discussion? Any comments? Bill, you haven't seen it a whole lot, but
Sorry, I'm familiar with it. I got to get used to this button here.
This isn't a question, just to share. I assume John spoke with each of you about this. He seems extremely excited about the program and analogized it to a tax abatement for higher paying jobs for individuals. Interesting concept, that's all.
I think my comfort level is more at that 10 job, just to see how, you don't go out and, start in with someone that you don't have a relation with. Otherwise, I don't think that's very responsible of us as elected officials to do. So I'm in favor of going with the lower amount, the 10 jobs for the first year and giving it a try. I'm not in favor of taking away our fund balance because that's really important to me when it comes to bonding time, and we're getting ready to bond a lot of money in this town for the new government center. So I would not. I want to be on record, be in favor of that. And Ryan, did you just say it'd be like 50%? Because this is showing the Indiana economic development portion to be not 50-50, but more.
Well, it's 50% of the cost of the program, but then there's program administration, which part of that cost is incurred by the town. That would be employees of the town, our time and effort to manage the project administration. So it ends up working out to be a little more than 50%. So there's some in-kind contribution by the town to staff it and assist.
And which department would be taking that on?
It would be between John, myself, and Suzanne, so economic and town manager.
Mr. Taylor, have you had a chance to look at this? Any concerns?
I do. I'm not concerned. There are some technical changes that we need to make. So I was going to ask that you make any approval subject to legal's approval. I'll give you an example. As you know, generally, we don't agree to penalties. There's a 5% penalty in one of the agreements, and the State Board of Accounts doesn't like us to do that. There's always a forum, convenient forum section, and we need to make that Hendricks County. There are just some little things like that throughout the agreement. Nothing that relates to the real terms of the arrangement that we would just like to see cleaned up. And Ryan's already talked to the vendor about the contract, and they're willing to work with us. So I just think there's some technical things, nothing that has to do with the structure or the nature of the actual performance of the agreement, just little technical things like that.
With that in mind, are there any other comments or questions or discussion? No? Would someone like to make a motion?
I can give this a try again, but please make sure, because we've got an amendment there. I make a motion that we adopt the Make a Move agreement as presented for 10 jobs. And now my internet's not coming up. So I could give you the amount with the recommended legal changes to the contract.
I think it was 78,125.
Thank you. It's still not coming up for me. Not to exceed the 78, what was the final number?
125.
$78,125.
Have a motion? Would anyone like to second?
I second.
Thank you. Julie, would you take roll call, please?
Bill Holland,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Jason Puckett.
4.
Okay, next is an ordinance. It's our final reading for ordinance 2024-03 regarding park fees. I don't see Shelby, so Ryan, are you?
Yeah, I told Shelby I'd handle it so she could go home and get her kids to bed. Again, this was introduced at your last meeting, and this is just a step reestablishing some of our fees. I think I shared with you guys at the last meeting. There were a couple of changes in how they were managing the shelters. All of these are basically fees they were already charging. Shelby did confirm that for me. Some of them were not adopted, so they've just been added. And so it actually just puts into practice that all of our fees have been adopted that our Parks Department is charging. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, comments, discussion?
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2024-03 as presented.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Great, thank you. Julie, would you take roll call, please?
Bill Holland,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Don Loudon.
4. Great, moving on to legal counsel report.
Nothing tonight, but thank you.
Okay, this is the second opportunity for public comment. If someone would like to speak, please come forward, state your name and your address. No takers again. All right, moving on. Last of the council comments.
Since I didn't do it earlier, Bill, welcome to the council and looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. Council comment, Ryan, or council calendar?
Yeah, your next meeting is March 14th, 7 PM. We do have another work session, so sorry for beating you guys up here in February with lots of work sessions, but it really sets the precedent for the year and gets us all going and gets the staff working in the right direction. So that's at 5:30. That's it.
All right, great. Meeting's adjourned.